Hello everyone, my name is Megan and today I'm going to be talking about the movie The Farewell directed by Lulu Wang. Now before you watch this, if you want to watch my reaction to the trailer, you can check out the link in the description below. Now this movie had me on a roller coaster of emotions. This is probably the most I've ever cried at a theater ever. But before I dive into this, here's a little bit of me at the theaters or before watching the movie. So getting ready to watch The Farewell. I haven't seen or read too much other than watching the trailer, so I don't know that much about the movie, which I'm really excited for, so I'm kind of going in with a blank slate. I'm going with some of my friends, so I brought a few packs of tissues because I feel like we're going to be needing them. Even after watching that trailer, I was a little teary-eyed, so we'll see. I hope it's good. I really hope it's good.
You must really like to fish, Mr. President.
Hello everyone, we just finished watching The Farewell. I am a wreck. I cried throughout the entire movie. Any thoughts?
I loved it.
You loved it? Yeah.
So sad, very sad.
Did you guys cry?
Yes.
Oh man.
This deep pain in my heart.
I couldn't even tell if you guys were crying because the whole movie was blurry. I didn't see most of it. What about you, Kevin? I heard you were laughing throughout the movie.
No, I was not.
So when the title comes on, in English it's The Farewell, but in Chinese it was called 别告诉她, which means don't tell her. Which I thought was really interesting because I don't know if either one is more sad, but regardless it sounds like something that would make me cry, so it was great. Now from the first scene when the grandma shows up, she's getting an x-ray or a CT scan or something, and all you see is the back of her head, and I immediately start tearing up, and I'm like, oh no, this is not going well. It's only gonna go downhill from here. Now, I've seen the trailer already, so I already knew what was coming up, but I'm like, oh no, this is not a good start. Because from the back, the movie grandma looks exactly like my grandma, and it's probably the generic Chinese grandma hair. So for the rest of the movie, every time movie grandma turns around, I immediately think about my own grandma, who lives here in Canada. And I love her, but like all grannies, she's getting older, so it hits me right here. As I watch this movie, it's hitting me harder and harder. I'm getting more and more emotional because I realize I am Billy. I am that whitewashed second generation kid growing up in America or Canada. I speak Chinese with an accent. I visit my family members or relatives back in Asia, and I love my grandma too. And going into it, I didn't know that most of the movie was going to be in Chinese, which I thought was pretty cool. And I found myself throughout the movie, I was sometimes reading the English subtitles, but sometimes I had to like consciously ignore that and try to actually understand what they were saying. Awkwafina, who plays Billy, speaks in Mandarin Chinese for most of the movie, and it's amazing because it's Chinese with an American accent. So not full, like proper pronunciations, but enough for me to understand what she's saying. And that's so cool because it's in a movie. It was on a big screen. What I loved about this movie was that everything felt so real and like you were actually there. It didn't feel like you were watching a film. It was like we were actually in the kitchen or in the living room with the family. So a lot of the emotional scenes had less or no music in the background, and which made it so much more sad. And I could feel for myself and I could hear other people around me trying to hold in ourselves, hold in like the tears from streaming down, and just hoping, like wishing that the next scene would be super loud. Like, oh, thank God for that line dance drumming scene that came on and the wedding scene that came on after a really sad moment, because that's where I like sucked in all my sauce. And I was like, oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And then grabbed my tissues and everything. It was rough. I think the whole premise of the movie of telling white lies to protect your family members, about withholding information about the cancer diagnosis from the grandma, I thought that was really intriguing. And from watching this, I'm able to understand both sides now. Now here are going to be some rapid fire thoughts and scenes from the movie which I felt were really familiar and really relatable for my life. That first scene where Billy and Grandma are on the phone and Grandma's like, oh, it's cold in the States, make sure you put on a hat, and Billy's like, yeah, I have a hat on. I do that too, do that all the time. Have you had dinner yet? Yeah, I have, when I haven't. There were a lot of little things, like background things that were very familiar, like the shuffle of Grandpa's sandals in the house across hardwood floor. Like that sounds like what goes on in my house every single day. That part where Grandma was doing all those weird exercises like the ha-ha and the slapping your legs, that is such a grandma thing to do. My grandma does weird exercises all the time, and slapping your legs is definitely one of them. That scene where everyone's asking if you're married or dating anyone yet, The little kid Pao, when he's playing on his phone every single scene he's in, people are either talking about how skinny or not skinny you're getting. That dinner scene where all you see is a flurry of chopsticks and you see everyone handing each other things, handing something to grandma being like, eat this, and you're like, no, I'm too full, but she's like, no, you have to eat it, and then you're like, okay, and then it's like that. Where Billy and grandma are walking up the stairs really slowly, and grandma says that even though everything's hurting, she has to keep walking to stay healthy and to keep fit, and this is literally something my grandma says every single day I see her. All the scenes where Billy gets things translated for her, where sometimes you don't ask and you just nod politely just to keep the conversation going, then they ask you, did you understand what that word was? And you're like, no. The part where she's singing karaoke with her dad. Now that was only a few of the things that I found super familiar and super relatable from the movie, but there are also so many scenes that were so sad and that hit so close to home. And one of the first ones, I don't know if I'll do them in order, but one of the first ones was when Billy was saying that she didn't get to say bye to her grandpa, and that was during an argument with her mom, and I thought that was so sad. Now another one is when the uncle went up to give a speech at the wedding, and then he started breaking down, and then I started losing it, because it's one thing to get a kid like our age to be sad, but if it's your dad or like your uncle getting sad, like that's so sad on another level. And then when Billy was going on stage, I was like, oh no, hold me back, here come the waterworks. But it was fine because she just kind of made a joke about it, and she was like, hey dad, how do you say congrats in Chinese? So relatable. And the part where they're back at grandma's home, Billy and grandma were in a room and she was handing her a red pocket, and I knew what was coming because grandma was like, oh, we're gonna make your wedding even bigger and better once your time comes. And I was like no. And last but not least, the farewell scene, the last hug that she had with grandma before she left on a taxi. That was so sad. At this point, I already had tears on my face throughout the entire movie, but I had to grab tissues and I put them right here to catch the waterfall that was falling on my face. I saw someone on Twitter talking about the hug between Billy and her grandma, and it was so accurate because it gave such an accurate depiction of a first-gen or second-generation kid hugging their overseas grandparents, because you don't know when the next time you'll be able to see them. Now the ending scene with the taxi and the grandma, that broke me. Now from the beginning of the movie till now, my emotions have been like this, and this was the breaking point. This is what I was gone. Because it's this scene where Billy gets in the taxi, she turns around, looks through the window, and then you can see her grandma just standing there by herself and waving goodbye, waiting for her to come visit again. Well, this is the saddest I've ever been doing a review for a thing. I had put packages of tissues in the cup holders next to me so my friends could use them. At this point, we had all grabbed the tissues and it was over. We cried straight from that point to the end of the movie. I didn't even know when the credits started because it was all a blur. Well, after that scene, we knew they could have ended the movie at any point, and they surprised us with giving a happy ending, showing that Lulu's grandma is still here with us today and still unaware of her diagnosis. But at that point, I was crying happy tears and being like, this is all too much. So me and my friend sat in the theaters till we were the last ones left. I'm emotionally compromised for the rest of my life watching the most relatable movie I've ever watched. And if you can excuse me, I'm gonna go call my grandma right now and tell her how much I love her. You best believe that was the first thing I did after watching the movie. I was trying to hide the fact that I had been crying for the last hour and a half because I am a Gwaisun, good grandkid. Anyways, call your grandparents and hug your papas and gongongs and yayas and mamas a little bit harder today. Thanks for watching. Bye!